Hello everyone. Before starting the lesson, try this warm-up. Factor fully. Here's the expression, factor it. Evaluate without using a calculator. See if you can do these. Pause the video and try the warm-up. This is a complex trinomial. There is no common factor. We have to decompose the middle term. Two numbers that multiply to 12 times 3, which is 36, and adds to negative 13. If you work it out, the numbers are negative 4 and negative 9. Factor by grouping. Now the common factor is 3x minus 1, and you're left with 4x minus 3. This is the factored form. When you're multiplying fractions, it's numerator multiplied by numerator, and denominator multiplied by denominator. Now, whether or not you know this or not, you can actually simplify before you start multiplying. So I notice that I have 3 in the numerator and the 6 in the denominator. I can cancel out. Divide both by 3, it's 1 over 2. Now I've reduced this before I start multiplying, so 1 times 5 is 5, 4 times 2 is 8. I don't have to reduce to lowest terms at the end. When you're dividing by a fraction, that's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So 3 over 14 is 14 over 3 as the reciprocal. Now I'm multiplying. I'm going to try to simplify first. So 3 and 6 simplifies to 1 down here, 2 up here. Got a 7, 14, they're both divisible by 7. When we do that, we have 1 and 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, 1 times 1 is 1, 4 divided by 1 is 4. We end up with 4 as a whole number answer. So these are some skills we're going to keep using as we go through the lesson today. The last lesson was about rational expressions, and this lesson is about rational expressions as well, except this time we're going to be multiplying and dividing rational expressions. So that's the goal. We're going to multiply and divide rational expressions. Lots of algebra in this lesson, so hang on for that. We're going to simplify and state any restrictions. So just like last lesson, we were simplifying expressions and finding restrictions. We're going to do the same with this. However, there's just a little twist. We're just multiplying two expressions together. So we follow the same rules for multiplying fractions. It's numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. But just like I showed you in the warm-up, if you see that you can reduce before you start multiplying, that actually makes it easier in the end. So let's start with the n's. I know this n to the 3 on the numerator and n in the denominator. Well, this n cancels out with one of these n's, so I end up with n squared in the numerator, and there's no more n in the denominator. I notice I have 5 here, 25 here. They're both divisible by 5, so we can cancel that out. 1 to 5. And lastly, I see that this 2 and this 10 can be reduced. 10 over 2 is the same as 5 over 1. So I've reduced quite a bit here. Let's look at what we have. We have 5n squared times 5 for the numerator. We have 1 times 1 for the denominator. And that simplifies to 25n squared. Now hold on. We've simplified, but we haven't stated any restrictions. So let's go back. Look at the denominator. Remember, the denominator cannot equal 0. Ooh, there's an n in the denominator at the start, so that can't be 0. We don't see any other issues. There's no more variables in the denominator, so we just know n cannot equal 0. So here's the simplified expression, and here's the restrictions. This is the same idea. We're going to simplify and state any restrictions. Just watch out, we're dividing by a fraction this time. So why don't you pause the video and try this one on your own. Here we are. Remember, dividing by a fraction is multiplying by the reciprocal. So we don't actually have a variable in the denominator, which means we're not going to have any restrictions. I simplify first. 14 and 49 are both divisible by 7, so 2 over 7. When I expand this, 3m times 3m is 9m squared, so I got a 9 and a 9. They both cancel each other out. So I have 2m squared times 1m squared, which is 2m to the 4th, and 1 times 7 on the bottom. So this is the simplified expression. Now this is a doozy. We're multiplying these two rational expressions. If we're going to do this, we should factor first. And once we factor, then we can start simplifying, and it's going to make our lives a lot easier. Once we have factored form, we can look at the denominators and figure out what our restrictions have to be. This is a simple trinomial. It factors to this. This is a simple trinomial. It factors to this. And these are both simple trinomials, and they factor to these. I notice that in the numerator and the denominator I have x plus 3. They cancel each other out. So I'm left with x minus 1 times x minus 2 times x minus 2 in the numerator. Now, of course, I can simplify x minus 2 times x minus 2 to just x minus 2 squared. In the denominator, I have x plus 1 times x plus 2 times x plus 3. And this is simplified. Now, back here, I had to look at my restrictions. X can't be negative 3, negative 1, negative 2, or negative 3, which I list here. This one you can try on your own, I think. There's just a couple twists. First off, you're dividing by this fraction, so make sure you multiply by the reciprocal. Flip these around. Also, these are just written in reverse order from what you're used to. So you might want to switch that around before you start factoring. So pause the video and see how you do. I started just by putting this in an order that I'm more used to. Negative 3p squared plus 21p. Anyway, I just reversed all of them so that it's in the order that I am used to. Now, dividing by a fraction is multiplying by the reciprocal, so I flipped numerator and denominator. I started factoring, and I canceled out factors that appear in the numerator and the denominator. Then I simplified to this. In the fully factored form, I kept track of my restrictions. P can't be 0, it can't be negative 4, it can't be 7, and it can't be 2. So I listed my restrictions at the end. And we'll finish off with another challenge. For those up for the challenge, determine the area of the triangle in simplified form. State the restrictions. Remember, area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. You can also think of it as area is half of base times height. All right, so you've got expressions for the base and the height. Let's see what you can do with this. Here's my work. Take a look through it. If you have questions, just reach out and let me know. Otherwise, it's time to practice. So you've got a worksheet. You can practice multiplying and dividing rational expressions. Remember, if you're multiplying straight across, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. If you're dividing by a fraction, multiply by the reciprocal. Factor, cross out factors that appear in the numerator and the denominator. Simplify it that way, and then make sure you're keeping track of your restrictions when you have the fully factored form. If you can do all that and keep it all straight, you should be doing fine. If you have issues, let me know.